Alright guys, we're back in my studio and we're gonna get started with adding these blush layers and the final layers on this baby. So I've already did a little bit of work here on this leg here, and we've already gone through the steps of adding our flesh layer like this to this kit. And so now on this baby here, and you can kind of barely see it on camera because I started on this last night and it's kind of absorbed into the vinyl, so you could probably see like faint blushing, and I have done creasing as well, but I'm gonna touch that up a little bit because I'm not totally satisfied with it. And I know my table has a lot going on, but it's probably what your table looks like too right now. But I'll try to make sure I work right here in this area for you. Alright, so we have our blushing color that we worked up yesterday. So you should have that all ready to go. And what we're going to do is we're going to paint it in the same manner that we painted the flesh color. So we just gonna blot it on there. And we have our sea sponge. I've already wet mine and rinsed it out. Wrung it out, how I told you. And then we just blot it on there like that. See? And if you feel like last night when I was doing it, I actually felt like my color was a little too runny. What you can do is you can leave the lid off of your paints and kind of let the water evaporate a little bit. I'm using my cleanup brush because I'm noticing a little bit of lint and hairs getting on my work for some reason, and I don't like that. So get that off with this little cleanup brush. I had my ceiling fan on yesterday, so I have a feeling that since I haven't had it on in a while, some dust may have gotten out. So we'll see. Alright, so again, we're just doing a small area at a time. And we're just spreading that paint out. Remember, we're not trying to dry it up too much. In the creases here, same thing. I don't want my paint to get too concentrated in there, so just kind of blot that out too. Alright, and then let's do the back of the leg here, like so. Alright, getting my little cleanup brush again. There was a little speck of some of the acrylic paint there, and then just kind of in the creases here, making sure it's spread out evenly. Alright, so that's what we're looking like so far. I hope you guys can see that. Okay, now we're going to keep going. Getting more paint on here. Spreading it out. Okay, and then here's the back of the leg there. There we go. Awesome. Awesome. Alright. I guess you could let the leg dry and then paint the foot, but I'm going to just like hold on to the toes here and spread it out here on the toes. On those toesies. I got a little too much in that crease. There we go. Alright, so I'll show you. This is a little baby that I was working on. This is actually going to be my giveaway baby on my Patreon this month. I'm not completely done with this baby, but I was working on him last night. So far he just has a leg. Has nothing else. So that's what he looks like. Alright, so let's go ahead and do the arm. I've already done this arm here. I'm not completely done with it yet though, but I did make a good start. You guys can see, so that's kind of the look we're going for. Alright, so we're going to do the same exact thing on this arm. This little full limb, full arm, full leg. This baby has full legs and full arms. So we got a little bit more to paint on this little one. There we go. I hope my camera is focusing on it for you guys. So I know I'm making fast movements here. Alright, come through. And then there's a little crease there on mine, so if there's creases on your baby, you just want to make sure you see how the paint is kind of puddling. I'm going to do the creases later, but I like to control how my creases happen. So I don't like those puddles because they can just cake up and look weird. You know, I want it to have a really neat look. There we go. I love this little baby's hands. Alright, so we're going to let this dry as well. So I've already done my other leg and my other arm, so you go ahead and do yours. I'm not going to show it on camera because it's doing the same steps that I've done, so we can see a slight difference. Let me show you my other leg that we just finished. Let's get this on the drying rack better here. There we go. Get this leg out of the way. Alright, so this one is almost done drying. It got a little wet spot there in the front, you can see. I'm going to wait for that to totally dry. But you can kind of see what that did, right? It's given some life to our little baby. Alright, so what I'm going to do now, since this is still drying, and I like to keep moving when I paint, you know. So I'm going to start on the foot, the bottom of the foot. Alright, and I paint my foot a little differently. I'm not going to be using a sponge because I like for my feet to be the brightest thing. Alright, my memory card got full while I was doing that, but let me show you the technique. This is the other foot. So I put the paint on there, right? Now I'm going to take this round brush. It can be any size round brush. I prefer to use a smaller one, so like a 12 or a 10. And then I do the same thing that I was doing with my sponge, but I do it with my round brush. Because as you can see, it allows more paint to stay on the baby rather than being lifted away. Do you see that? I still want to be careful that I blot though, because we don't want air spots. Water spots, sorry guys, I don't know why I said air spots. My brain. Alright, I see I need to clean up a little bit here in the middle. Get a little lint off. Alright, I've got that cleaned up and it's looking much better. Alright, so now this is dry here. Mine is completely dry. My leg and my arm I just did. So I'm going to go through and do another layer with the with the blush. There we go. So we just put it on a nice sized amount. And we can start to see that color come out so much more now. Look at that. We can really see that. I see a big difference already. Awesome. And we want holes, you know, and space in the work, because I feel like that's what gives it that dimension that I like to go for with my painting. I like blotchy skin rather than smoothed out skin. I think it looks more real. Yeah, that's really nice. Because some babies do have blotchy skin. Some babies have really smooth skin. Some babies have blotchy skin, but I like the blotchy skin. Let's get that out of there. Got a little too much paint in the crease. Yay, that's looking so pretty. Look at that. Alright, and as a comparison, I know it's still wet, but that's the arm that only has one layer versus the arm that has two. Alright, and to compare to, the thing is, when you paint, you have to, in your mind, kind of imagine that the paint will lighten about, the intensity of your color will lighten about 15 to 25% when you're done, as it soaks into the vinyl. So this is after about 24 hours. No, I take that back. It hasn't even been that long. I did this last night. Probably about 10 to 12 hours. You can kind of see a little bit of a difference. So I'm not sure if I'm going to go in another layer with that, but that's something to keep in mind. So a lot of times when I paint, I over paint at first because I know it's going to soak in, if that makes any sense. Like, I really try to make it vibrant, and that just comes with experience, because I know of some kits I've painted, especially with my Playborns, some kits I painted, and then when you go back and look at it like a few days later, once the vinyl has cured, it really looks like I hardly put any paint, and that wasn't the look I was going for. So I've kind of learned to overdo it a little, because I know that it'll tone down significantly in the next day or so. In the summertime, that happens so fast with me, but wintertime painting is different. So I don't know if it's like that where you are. I know painting in different climates, like it's so dry here versus where you are, it may be more humid. So you have to learn what works for your environment. Plus my studio is pretty cold. It's pretty cold in the winter, and it's pretty hot in the summer, because it's in like the add-on part of my house, and you guys know additions of homes aren't always the best when it comes to temperature control. Alright, so I moved right onto that arm now. You guys see that? So this is the basic technique here, and after we're done with this, I'm going to show you how and where I like to highlight more blushing to give more dimension and depth to it. This is just basically putting down the foundation, though. That's a lot of paint right there. Spread that out on that little hand. Alright, it's looking great. Alright, don't get frustrated with yours. Just keep trying. Alright, it's all about having fun and learning too. So this is this one here. We're all done there. Alright, and keep in mind also the color of vinyl that you use will give you different results than what I'm getting here. Like this Bountiful Baby vinyl here. It's a much different color than this vinyl here, and we've talked about that in a past video. So your results are going to be different if you use a different color vinyl. Alright, so let's go on to creases. I think it's time. And so here's my creasing rule. I don't really have a rule. I kind of play by ear, but sometimes, like for my Caucasian babies, I use pink. I use the same color that I blush with to crease. And for my ethnic babies, like this one here is going to be an ethnic baby, I use brown in my creases. Can you guys see that? So you see that? That's pink in my creases, brown in my creases. And then, but on this baby, this is going to be an ethnic baby, but he's going to have very, very fair skin like a Caucasian baby. But his features and his face, the way he was sculpted, is what's making him ethnic. Plus the hair I'm going to give him, he's going to look ethnic. But I'm going to use pink creases on him, because I really want, like, the creases is what really is going to bring that baby to life. You can see the difference between these two. The creases is really going to make that color you just painted pop. And to me, the creasing also determines the ethnicity. Like on a very dark skinned person, like me, I would look pretty funny with pink creases, you know what I mean? Same thing on the babies. Having that dark crease to me indicates, oh, there's a little bit of ethnicity going on, and the pink tends to indicate that it's not an ethnic baby. But in this particular baby, I want it to be like the shock of, wow, that's such a fair-skinned baby, but it's got really African features, and really this baby's going to have super curly hair. So it's going to be, you know, it's going to be obvious that it's biracial. So that's something to think about. But we're making a Caucasian baby, so we're going to use pink in the creases. I hope all of that made sense, guys. All right, so you have some options for what you're going to crease with. And we got to go back and do some things, so don't worry about the feed and all that stuff. Oh, also, I wasn't really clear, but I did not blush the toes, and I did not blush the fingertips, because we're going to go back and do that later. I like to have more control over the ends. So you should still just have basic flesh tones on your fingers and toes. Oh, excuse me. All right. So, couple options for your detailing. We can use a round brush like this. This is a round 0. Or we can use a liner brush, which okay. And the liner brush, here's one right here. I know I have a new pack. I mean the detail brush, but the little tiny detailing brushes work really well too. It just kind of depends. You guys, I'm trying to get my camera to focus. This is such a skinny brush. Maybe if I put my hand behind it. There we go. See that? And this is a liner brush. Looks like it's a 3/0. So this is something to think about. This is a big baby for me, so the creases are bigger and deeper. I'm going to be just fine using this round brush. However, if this is just for the big creases, on this baby here, it's got such small little creases down there on the bottom. You might want to use a smaller brush for that. Like definitely down here in the details, use a smaller brush. But for my baby, I've determined I'm going to use this this brush right here, this liner brush. I mean this round brush, sorry. Look at all that paint all over my hands. Don't worry though, it washes right off. So anyway, get some paint on your brush, clean off your brush. And I've already done this leg, so let me put this back. Alright, let me make sure my camera's nice and focused. And we're just gonna wipe lightly. Alright, we're not applying a hard pressure at all. I need a little bit more paint because it's not really showing up. Alright, now sometimes on my babies I do 2 layers of creases. Sometimes I do 1 layer of creasing. It just depends on the baby and how well the paint comes out in the first layer. Alright, so it's kind of like tracing is what you're doing. See that, guys? It's right in there in those creases. Behind the leg, I don't really like to get too much because it's kind of risky back there behind that leg to get puddles. So I just try to be careful. And if you make a little mistake, if you get too far away, you can always come through with the cleanup brush and kind of just pat it and make it a part of your work, because this is the same color as your flesh tone, as your blush tone. So it'll just blend right in. Alright, let's go down here behind this ankle and we'll do the same thing there. Alright, and same thing on the front of the leg here. Hope you guys can see that, my camera. There we go. Alright. On my newborn babies, which I'll do a tutorial on a newborn baby, I tend to really like to crease the ankles kind of heavily. But this baby, I'm going for a light creasing. Here we go. Nice. Alright, and then I'll come back and do the rest of that later. I'll probably come back again once this dries and go over the ankle creases, because I want them to be a little deeper, like on this baby over here. His ankle creasing is really good on that leg. Alright, let's get some more paint and do the same thing to the arms. So coming in here, let's come right in here and just rubbing lightly across. Sometimes if I get it a little out of the crease, I can wipe it with my finger, or like I said, get the cleanup brush to fix your mistake. Okay. Got a little out of the line there. And down here we got a lot of small lines on this baby's wrists. Lots of little small ones. So probably want to switch over to my smaller brush, but I'm going to do some of the bigger ones with this brush here. Okay, and then this is a really deep crease here, so you have to be careful because it's easy to make puddles. Just really light coming across. And then clean up any mess that you made with our little cleanup brush. Getting any spills out of there. There we go, so you can see. Alright, and that is pretty much it for that. Okay, so let's go back now to this other ankle. Hopefully it has dried. Actually, is that dry? It's not dry enough. So let's go on to the head. I haven't done anything to the head. Alright, this is our little face. We've already put our flesh tones on here. I'm gonna go ahead and sometimes I like to do this too. If like this has been sitting for a while, I'll just take a brush and I'll just kind of wipe it off to remove any lint. Especially here in the face. You don't want any lint on your baby's face. There's like little tags here. There we go, the vinyl from the factory. There we go, I got it off though. Alright, now my little guy's ready to be blushed and brought to life. This is my favorite part of the painting. I'll go back to those feet and hands in a minute. Let's get on to the face. Alright, same thing here in the back. You can see how my paint is starting to puddle into those creases on the back of the neck. Just going to take my little brush here, run it around, get rid of that concentration. We don't want that. Kind of going down on the forehead slightly at this point, but you know, it's going to depend on the size of your baby's head. I'm just spreading it on around. Little guy. Alright. When I get to the ears over here, I kind of change it up. Let's go ahead and show you, because it's hard to get your sponge in that ear. So I'll do a little bit like around the ear, but then I'm going to take a brush, a round brush, and I'm going to do that to it to clean it up that way, like we did the feet. That way you don't have paint concentrating into the folds of the skin of the ear. That will not look cute. Alright, so let's go on the other side here. Do the back of the ear. I got a little too much in that crease there. So now we do the ear. Alright, take that round brush. Same way you did the foot. Want to be kind of careful because this brush doesn't lift up so much paint, so you really want to make sure it's still kind of blended, especially if it has started to go towards the face. I don't know if you guys saw that, but it was kind of heavy right there, so like just kind of spread that a little bit. And then double check those ears and make sure you got everything out of those creases and behind the ears too. Sometimes you can get pools of paint in those spots. Alright, so now we just got the face to do. So let's do the cheeks. Little cheeky boy. He's so cheeky. I can't wait to put his eyes in. It's my favorite part. Just be really careful in here. Again, have that cleanup brush ready, because look at there. In my eye, I have a little pooled up paint. And in here, around that nostril. So we're just going to go in and kind of make sure it's all together there. Perfect. Don't want that paint pulling up on you. And then we just got this little bottom area here to go. And we'll have our first layer on the face. We'll let it dry. Sometimes I leave the lips alone, but I don't know. I felt like including the lips today for some reason. I don't know. Oh, look at the little boy. Look at the little boy. He's looking so handsome. So let's set him to the side and let him dry. And we'll come back to this ankle that we were worried about before. Let's come back here now. That leg is back there wanting to move. Alright, I'm trying to make sure my camera's focused. There we go. Let's get a good amount of paint on the brush and redo the crease. There we go. There we go. That's what I want. That looks better. I'll kind of buff it out a little bit. I'm happy with all the other creases on this leg. Well, I guess I can redo the ankle back here. Just put a little more emphasis on that. Alright, so let that dry. Then I'll come over here to my arm that I was working on. I will definitely want more on this because it's so faint on that right there near the wrist. So let's come back through. Oops, got a little too much there. Yeah, that's what we want. Alright. Cool. Yeah, these creases in here in the corner of the arm here where the fold is, I kind of want to highlight that a little more. Not too happy with how pale that is. But that's my painting style. I like vibrant colors. There we go. All right. Now let's go back and while we're waiting for the head to dry, and I hope you guys are following me because this is how I paint so that I keep moving. You know, like I want to be able to paint the doll in an efficient and effective manner, and I don't want it to take, you know, forever. So I like to, all right, let's work on this while this is drying. Let's work on that. You know, it's all multitasking and moving. You know, I'm not just, you know, I think that's what's different probably for some people too about painting with air dry paints. Is I've never painted with Genesis heat set or any heat set paints, but I think you have to do everything kind of in steps. Like, all right, now we're going to do all of the creases. All right, now we're going to do all of the veins or whatever. But with these paints, like my head's pretty much dry now, you don't have to wait. So you can kind of be like, all right, I'm going to do the arms. I'm going to come back through the creases. All right, let's work on, you know, you can kind of bounce all over the place. But yeah, so one thing, okay, I think we're going to just leave the limbs alone for a second and let's bring the head up to where we are with everything else. My head is pretty much dry, so I'm going to go ahead and get started with that. Let's go ahead and bring it all up together. And then we can work on some fine details in the feet and hands. And those are like the finishing touches. We're pretty close to where we want to be with the feet and the hands, but we've got to do some fine details on the palms and the soles of the feet and the fingers and toes. Those are all things that, like, you know, really require really detailed attention. So maybe I'll make a separate video on that, so it's not too much information coming at you. You know what I mean? All right. I don't want to go too pink in here, but I know it will lighten up a lot too. So don't be afraid if you're feeling like my baby's looking too pink, because there is another step that we will be adding to kind of tone down some stuff. Okay, so we're gonna let this dry for a second. Actually, I'm gonna just hold it like this and go ahead and get started on the creasing in the back here, the back of the head. Alright. So here we go. I just love her sculpting style, Georgia. I'm thinking about my inspiration baby, and I wanted him to be a little bit more less blotchy than this, but it's okay. He was just an inspiration. He's not a portrait baby. Sometimes your work kind of takes a different direction than you intended, and that's okay too. I will make it work. Plus I know when it dries, it'll tame down. It'll tone right on down. I don't like to be too heavy with my creases on my head. I like them to be kind of faint. There we go. Let's go ahead and move over to these ears. Just lightly creasing in there. Another thing I like to do in this ear is, you see if there's a little indentation right there? I like to just put a little pink there to kind of bring that out. And then in the total ear, like the canal area, I'll just put pink all in there. But when I do more detailing, I'll do more to the ear. But for now, you know, we're just going to do that. Let's get in there a little bit right there. Come on around. And then we'll go in the total canal. Like that. If you do too much paint like I just did, you're just going to use your little cleanup brush and clean it up. Perfect. Got a little too much there. Nice. So this is a good time to check behind the ears and see if you're evenly painted. If you're not, you can just go like that with your brush, and then using your cleanup brush kind of clean it out a little. Here we go. Looking good. He's looking nice and alive, little guy. Alright, let's look at the eyes now. I actually like to do this step with the eyes in, but I don't recommend that for beginners because you can get paint on your eyeballs that you don't want. You may want to switch over to a smaller brush right now. I'm going to just keep going with this one because I'm not doing big details right now. And then let's go ahead and get in here. And then around, if you have an open eye, we're just going to, around the rim of the eye, just kind of pat. So my brush doesn't have a whole lot of paint on it right now. See that? And I'm not going to block that off. I'm going to leave that. Alright, let's go on over to the other eye. I'm just getting the creases in here. Same thing there. These under the eye little lines. Getting a little more paint on my brush. Let's see. Looks like that one needs to be highlighted. So that's a very faint crease on my baby. And then we'll come in here in the corners of the eye and around a little under the lower lid, kind of highlighting that. And then we won't wipe that off. If you have any mistakes or you make too many pools of paint, go ahead and use your cleanup brush to take care of that. Alright, so that is going to do it for this portion of the video. What's all left at this point is fine detailing, and I'm gonna make a fine details video. So what we've accomplished in this video, what you should be able to do after you're done watching this, or if you painted along with me, is you should have already have your flesh coat down. We did that in our last video. You should have your blush layers on your babies and your basic creases. Now in the next video, we're going to go in and we're going to do some fine detailing on the palms and the soles of the feet. And then I'll probably make a separate video of that and then have a video just dedicated to the face. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and I will see you in the next one. Peace and love.